2021.
Are you ready?
Nerd Sauce Entertainment presents
The Nerd Pod.
All right, guys, we're back today with something not very special for me, but something that's going to be talked about in the next few months. So we're going to start off with Dune Part 1. That's going to lead us into Dune Part 2, which probably going to take me another year to watch that when it comes out, you know. So I decided to jump in the bandwagon and watch this movie just to see what greatness is all about, according to these gentlemen right here on the podcast.
It is
you
great.
know, they read the book, they've done, you know, all their research and all that good stuff. But for me, I got a lot of holes to fill, so they're here to kind of give me that guidance to see if there's any life, you know, to give in this movie moving forward.
See if there's any water for the thirst.
Dude, I was dehydrated watching this movie. With all the sand, I was so dehydrated.
Well, luckily, we have e-pickle.
Yes, definitely. If you like pickle and you don't mind a little flavoring in it, we got some funky fruit punch and some lemonade.
So keep your hydration
Go
up.
check out E-Pickle on Instagram.
The Freemen need some of this.
Yes.
It's some good stuff. So
Now that we're getting ready to traverse that Arrakis,
you got to stay hydrated.
we got to stay hydrated.
Who's ready for some desert powers?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're gonna get into the story, and then I'll let y'all take it off and give me some guidance on this.
Yeah. So from the beginning, Dune has been referenced as the foundation of sci-fi, like the sci-fi, like the quintessential sci-fi book, right?
Never heard of that.
And never. So that's the part that always made me curious, right? Because I'm a Star Wars fan, Lord of the Rings fan, Game of Thrones, you know. So where did all our favorite creators, well, not Tolkien, but at least
George R. Martin.
George R. Martin, George Lucas, where did they
I
get?
think that's it, right? There's not even is a top 5 out of all of them
What do you mean?
of creators.
I mean,
There's a lot.
Who did Dune? Who's the creator of Dune?
Frank Herbert.
So Frank Herbert, then you got George Lucas, George R. Martin, and Tolkien. That's pretty much
Yeah,
the big.
like this
And
grand
there's
fantasy, like
there's
these
a
big
bunch of
fan- I
other
mean,
like sci-fi, like Isaac Arthur.
like Isaac Asimov.
That's before, even before.
Yeah,
Dune.
but we're talking about like epic, like this like sci-fi, like epic fantasy that we were discussing. Like these are the gods of it, right?
Yeah.
Let's just call it that, like the Mount Rushmore of epic fantasy.
Yep.
But like you look at, like, again, like I was saying, the Star Wars, the George Lucas, George R. Martin, they mentioned Herbert, you know, and I always was curious about that. He was always telling me to get into it, and when I did dive into it, I mean, it's lore heavy.
you read it first?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In 2021,
Oh wow.
just to get ready for the book. And
Jeez.
you know,
The
everything
movie.
I read.
You read the book to get ready for the movie.
Yeah.
right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And everything I read about was this. This was the Game of Thrones in space.
Yeah, that's the best
Bro,
way to put it.
That's
I know you'll
terrible.
disagree with that.
Terrible.
But
Terrible.
I read the book.
Terrible analogy on that.
I read the book to get
I
ready.
mean, I know you don't like it, but like, yeah, it is. Like,
Yeah, so I read the book to get ready for the movie. And it does help. So I know someone in your perspective of not coming in the movie knowing really what's going on, the movie really does not hold your hand.
it doesn't.
It compared to the 1984 Dune. The 1984 Dune is just, you know, the Star Wars intro of back to back, you know, exposition over exposition. It just continued, and you still don't know what's
I
going
would
on.
appreciate some explanation. Like, I don't.
No, listen, I agree with
my
you.
jeez.
The best way I was telling him, it's like, you know how every Star Wars film does start abruptly.
Yeah.
But they do like the 40, 50 seconds where they,
Yeah.
you have the explanation. And I was telling my Giovanni on the way here, where I was like, listen, if Dune were to do that, it would be about 40 minutes to an hour
Yeah,
of you
I just-
reading, and they're like, all right, start the film.
Yeah.
No,
5
but
minutes of film.
But listen, after getting into it, understanding the world of Dune, I believe that this film it's a film with deep meaning and astute attention to detail.
The world building just by the visuals alone.
Yeah.
The visuals were good. I'll
The set
give it that.
designs, the ships themselves.
Yeah.
Besides the sand.
Well, in the beginning, did you like the beginning with Caladan on the planet of Caladan?
Yeah.
because it's a bit more colorful. It's more of an ocean planet. So you have the Emperor's Herald that arrives. One of my favorite scenes because
So is that the emperor that sent that clan to the desert planet?
Yes.
yeah, the Emperor basically sent the Atreides to Arrakis.
Arrakis is the
controls.
planet.
Because he technically kicked out House Harukin.
Yeah,
House
But it
Harkonnen
was-
is.
The bald guys were Batista and the Baron.
Batista, yeah.
But then in the movie, I hear it several times that the emperor sent them to die.
Yeah, so here's the thing.
It was
Go ahead.
an indirect attack. So basically, Arrakis controls spice in this universe.
Yeah.
The only way you can predict if you were to use FTL travel, faster than light travel, the only way you can predict where you're going to land in space would be using spice, and these are used by space navigators.
Okay.
Right. So the only location of spice is on planet Arrakis, which was controlled by the Harkonnens.
Okay.
He gives it to the Atreides because the Atreides were gaining power and popularity, and the Baron even mentions it. The Emperor's a jealous man, and he's seeing how much power and popularity the Duke Leto Atreides is getting. So he sends him as a trap to basically make it seem as though it's a battle between the Harkonnens and the
and them,
Atreides. Yeah.
But it's not really.
Yeah,
It's not. Yeah.
It's a political, assassination job.
So
Yeah.
what was that whole part with that treaty? Him putting his
So that
ring
was
into the
that was pretty much like the Emperor trying to make it official.
Yeah.
We're like,
You
hey,
know-
since you're doing so good,
yeah.
I'm kicking out House Harukin and
Out of
Arrakis.
Arrakis, sorry.
And now House Atreides takes the most profitable planet here and is going to lead our empire in the production of spice.
So was there like a force field around the planet, or just that area where they lived in?
Just the city.
Just the city.
Just the city.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
Arrakis.
just the city. Not the planet itself.
So
That was the Emperor's plan. The
Yeah.
Emperor's plan was more like, hey, you guys have done good. Here's a promotion. But he wants to give the illusion to the rest of the houses.
which is called the Landsrat, which is
Yeah.
kind of like their senate.
that he did a good deed or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, oh, look,
And
you,
that-
you guys do good, you do popular. Look, I gave Leto the most popular house. Arrakis,
like-
the most, has the most
of the spice.
important spice in the in the universe.
And House Atreides has fallen. That was House Harukin.
yeah.
They got jealous and they invaded. I'm not meddling with the houses fighting each other. But he's the architect in all this. A good way to realize that he's the architect in this is that you saw the scene when you had the the Sardukar. Where it was like you had the throat singing
One
and,
of my favorite
and all
scenes.
the soldiers are sitting there and
he's
they're
like,
getting
Oh yeah.
I can't
you
do
see,
it.
they're bleeding out people, getting that blood and marking the soldiers. So those soldiers, the Sardukar, are like the elite commandos of the Emperor. So they're not Harukin. They're
So you consider
Empire.
them like assassins or something?
No, this is the
They're
equivalent.
because they want battalions, so they're legionnaires under the Emperor.
Yeah.
and they're known as the most powerful soldiers.
So they
in the
shouldn't be
entire-
attacking
Exactly.
What do you call them?
The
Atreides.
The Atreides.
They shouldn't be attacking any of the houses because if we're gonna
Because
be
the emperor is supposed to be like the president, if anything.
Yeah.
Bro, this is the equivalent of the U.S. military attacking its own people.
Exactly.
It's like, what are you doing? So it's like, no, you guys are. While we have, like, Florida has a national guard, right? Like
Yeah.
we have our own fighting force here. It's like the equivalent of like the Marine Corps, the Navy coming
Yeah.
in and trying to take over. Where it's like, what are you doing? No, you're supposed to protect us from greater threats, right? Not destroy us, unless So, it was all a scheme by the Emperor. And the thing is that Duke Leto knows, and that's why they start preparing.
One of my favorite
Oh, so
scenes.
he
in
already knew what's
They
up.
knew what was
it's
happening.
obvious. It was obvious because one of my favorite scenes because Caladan has been the home of the House Atreides for thousands of years, and all of a sudden,
22,000, I think. Look, or like 10,000, 11,000 years.
something
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
And the reason why, as soon as the Emperor was like, "Oh, we're taking Caladan away from you and giving you Arrakis," they already like this is already strange. Why are they giving us the most resource heavy planet in the entire
And
empire?
And House Harukin had controlled
They've
it
been
for
controlling it for 80 years.
Yeah. They've got so.
So that's what started the beef between them two.
They've already had a history.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They've already had a history, and the Baron knew indirectly, without the Emperor telling him. The Emperor knew they were basically scheming with each other. The Baron and the Emperor indirectly were telling each other, "Yeah, we're gonna give Atreides Arrakis, and you go in, take them out, and you you take over Arrakis, and I get rid of House Atreides, which is giving me." Basically, a challenge within the Landsraad, which is the Senate of the Empire, which multiple houses exist in.
Yeah.
So, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the Herald of the Emperor comes. A great scene with that ship.
We're talking about when he signs. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
they go
like
down,
how
they-
ceremonial it
Yeah,
looks.
very feudal ceremony. They
He had
still have the ceremony.
What was he wearing? Like some burgundy,
Yeah.
that robe looking thing. Like he was
Yeah.
like a pope.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they-
And that's the thing about Dune. Dune specifically is it's almost like a
the Holy Roman Empire.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
the Holy Roman Empire.
The Empire's Holy Roman Empire. The Bene Gesserit is the Catholic Church. The Space Navigators or the Space Guild is maybe the increasing power of merchants at the time,
Yeah.
like in the 1500s.
So what's the whole thing about the ring? It's just
Oh, the ring-
insignia.
it's a
of-
royal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
to,
royal insignia of the
I'm
House
trying
Atreides.
to like also explain it in terms of like why I try to keep connecting it with Game of Thrones because it's like similar in that aspect. It's almost like an heirloom to a house, right?
Passes down.
Yeah. So whatever Ned Stark had,
For the wolf in that case.
that made him the head of House of Stark.
Yeah.
That's what the
Their
ring.
sigil, like the picture of their house.
So he was just-
that's
he-
what the ring is to House Atreides. So Duke Leto, he's the head of the house right now, and that was the thing where it's like Paul, you're next.
Yeah.
Right. You're next. So
Yeah.
like this is gonna be yours. And remember, he even said it like which is also like a fucking wonderful scene.
Yeah.
That scene between Timothy Chalamet and Oscar
Yeah.
Isaac in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Where you see the resistance
The hesitation.
the hesitation of
Paul.
someone that is like, hey, you have to run this house, and it's like I never chose this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be this, and it's like I don't want to do this either. When my father told me,
You want
I
to be
had
a
Yeah.
pilot.
Oh, I remember that,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was. I think that was a really
that
good
was
scene.
such a, and it just Leto like is such a good character.
This movie really deals well with. I mean,
Not making sense. I know.
no. With the rewatches, I mean, reading the book and then watching
But
the
that
movie.
whole, Paul having those flashbacks,
visions?
that was so dumb, man.
no.
Before we get into that,
what the heck is going on?
Before we get
Because
into
it's what
that,
happened at the beginning of the movie
Oh
too.
my god!
Wait.
Paul having those things, Anakin. I keep having these dreams. Oh, I love fucking Skywalker. It's the same thing, bro.
but before we get into that, the scene I wanted to mention, the scene that really sets off
Palpatine has returned.
the scene that really sets off the whole movie is when finally when Leto Atreides he stamps his ring on the contract, the royal contract. Okay,
That was a cool scene.
yeah, but
The Herald, right?
Yeah, the Herald. What Leto looks at him. That's it, and then everyone knows. In these circles of like old royalty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of secondhand language in terms of what you don't say directly to your opponents, right?
Yeah.
Certain like the body might be the body language or your actions. Everyone knows they're giving Leto Arrakis for this particular reason, for the Emperor to get rid of House Atreides. Even the Herald knows this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
He
that's
has
it.
this
No,
little like
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just It's
Leto says that's it, right?
yeah, and he
I
almost says it. He almost says it
Like,
in a
that's-
way of
That's all that takes.
that's it.
all
Like,
that
you gave
one
me the
stamp.
most
Just to have-
powerful like resource
control.
control.
I take it as more. That's all that takes to take down my thousands of
Ooh,
year old
see, that's a-
family
That's
dynasty.
good. That's
One
good.
Bloodline, the
stamp,
whole bloodline.
Yeah.
right there. By me stamping on this contract, I'm getting rid of thousands of years of my family. This is the death of my family.
Yeah.
And then the hero knows it, and that's why he looks at him like, "Yep."
So I have a question about this damn sand planet. So since it's the high profit,
So we're talking about Arrakis.
Arrakis, yeah. So
sand planet.
the sand, is it because it has spice in it and that's what makes it so good?
Yes, that's it. Because aside, that's the whole point. That's why it looks desolate. It looks unappeasing. The temperatures are 140
it's a
degrees
desert planet. It's all-
during the day.
yeah.
Sandstorms so strong of winds of over 200 miles per hour
But because
that could
there's-
cut through metal.
Yeah.
But the fact that it holds this simple resource, which is beautifully explained by Zendaya's character in the narration in the beginning, where she says,
Chani.
Chani.
where she says something in the terms of, oh, you can see it in the wind. You know, you can see the spice in the wind when it blows. And yeah, because they need it for space travel. This is what powers their space travel. So they,
I thought they just rolled it up and smoke it.
So they don't
They never really
smoke
specify how they use it, but it's almost breathed in.
The indigenous people, the Furman, the Furman.
But wasn't it in Star Wars they used it as a drug?
Yes,
Yeah.
in Star
Okay.
Wars it's a actual like we could say something like heroin.
Yeah.
They're
right.
like typical
That
drug,
was-
not a drug that gives you prescience.
Yeah.
You know, can
So-
you imagine if something like that existed?
So limitless pill.
Limitless.
So the Furman, you saw how their eyes are blue.
Yeah, that's
the eyes
another
of
thing
the
I didn't
god.
understand either.
Their-
I'm like, are
their
these
eyes-
humans? Are they aliens? What?
No, they're technically aliens. That's the thing. Because
They're not. I mean, I would say they're human.
Yeah,
just
because they
human
kept calling
intent.
Paul human. So I'm like,
They're all human. Well, you're talking about the scene in Put Your Hand in the Box. That's a whole other scene.
no,
Because she said
the lady.
Yeah. She says, "I hope you live, young human."
Yes.
because that whole test was to determine because
Remember,
remember.
her husband died or something like
So
that.
the Atreides family or the Bene Gesserit is basically a faction that has been controlling blood lineages of these houses for thousands of years.
Yeah, they
They've been
communicate
trying-
with the emperor, right?
so the
They've been-
emperor has the Reverend Mother kind of like as a advisor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But the
Specifically
Bene
uses
Gesserit,
her for her power.
The Bene Gesserit is its own faction. They're not directly connected to the emperor.
But in the movie, they were trying to blame her, but she didn't want to speak anything because she said something about the emperor, like she only reports or talks to the emperor.
Yeah, she's a
when-
truth sayer.
Yeah,
they call
truth-
it.
that's what it was.
Truth sayer.
Yeah,
So
she
this
doesn't-
is think about it this way.
until she realized, like,
That's what I'm saying. That's
She
why
was fucking up.
That's
So
why I said before that. Think about the Catholic Church back in the 1500s. The Holy Roman Emperor had a priest directly from the Pope.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't
like
mean.
they speak for the Pope.
Yeah,
or whatever.
that doesn't necessarily mean they work for the emperor. The Catholic Church, if you read about the Middle Ages, they're their own supreme power.
Yeah.
The Bene Gesserit is similar. The only difference here is the Bene Gesserit is slowly controlling the genetics to create what their Messiah is.
Okay.
Which is, if I remember.
Oh, I got it.
The
Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, when Paul has.
It's just a weird name for him in this crazy world
So,
and
okay,
sci-fi.
so he's named after
Isaac,
his.
Idaho. That's my favorite one.
Oh,
No,
Duncan, Idaho.
Duncan, Idaho, yeah.
Duncan.
Duncan, I don't know.
Jason
Isaac,
Momoa.
Yeah.
Paul is named after his grandfather, Paulus Atreides.
I'll take a Paulus, but
Yeah.
Paul?
That's why,
Paul?
like, yeah, they just
And Idaho is
they took it from
I'm
that.
pretty sure it's a
They
Greek
took
name.
it from that.
Idaho.
So
Duncan.
Isn't it weird that like then you have like Leto, you have even the names are kind of funny.
Leto
because
Atreides
Duncan
sounds
Idaho's the
cool.
funniest one though.
But Duncan,
Lady
Ida?
Jessica Duncan Idaho.
Yeah, that's
that
the
was
funniest
so
one.
like out of left field.
Colossal Rabin.
Gurney
Gurney,
is Thanos. Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Steiger.
Yeah.
Who's Tiger?
That's Javier Bardem. He's
Oh.
Oh, he's the
Stilgar.
leader,
Stilgar.
the leader
Stilgar.
of the Freemen. Yeah.
Yeah. Stilgar.
But so that scene
that
with
scene, that scene was crazy too, but because I didn't
one?
understand that either.
Which one?
The whole fighting, like why he had to kill him.
Oh, bro, it's the equivalent of.
but we're jumping way too. Wait,
But still, there's a lot of shit that happens.
Wait, so when Paul had his visions if you notice his different visions throughout the movie, he has that.
kept seeing Zendaya the whole time.
Wait,
he has visions of the future.
Yeah, but
That's what it
not
is.
not just one future, multiple possible futures.
So what is this power that he has?
So that's why going back to what
it's
the
a weird version of the Force.
Going-
Damn it.
What were you gonna say?
Matt right now is like. Lozano brothers. What a midichlorians.
I know. Yeah. What are the mini- So
But honestly, yeah, it's
going back to what the Bene Gesserit are, they've been conducting this thousands years
That's
long.
the blue-eye people.
no. That's
no.
the Furman. The Bene Gesserit are the
That woman with the box, the old woman with the box.
Oh, the one with that
That
the Reverend Mother. That's her
yeah,
name.
that was she had the
her name
yeah,
is like
yeah.
Mother Gaius.
Gaius,
Gaius
Helen,
or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
something
But
like
they
that.
refer to
Charlotte
her.
Rampling is the one who plays her.
But they refer
She's
to
like
her.
Mother Superior.
Oh, the Reverend Mother. That's
so
what they refer
she
her
has
to
these
as.
powers, right? That can like that
her
force shit that
her
can
bloodline.
control.
Her bloodline that's the thing. It's their bloodline. They specifically have like.
But her bloodline is passed through Paul, right?
No.
So Lady Jessica is her daughter.
Yeah, so that's why she's able to have. He gets that power.
And Lady Jessica gave birth
you
to
didn't
Paul.
say with the pitch.
Yeah, so Paul is at a point in his age where he's learning how to use it.
Yeah.
And then the thing is,
Terrible power.
you saw
the power of prescience and seeing possible.
No.
So like, let's say you go to.
You didn't use the proper pitch.
Let's say you have waking visions, right? And these waking visions show 10 possible futures. One of them, let's say one of them tells
Man,
you
you ain't
that
Doctor Strange, bro. This ain't Marvel, man.
Exactly. Doctor Strange has one of the best powers. You have millions of possibilities. We can only win one.
Yeah.
Paul later on in the books
Yeah,
and
he
the
has
movie,
different visions.
he has
I
different
noticed that.
visions. So he sees multiple visions of him dying. One of them even Shani, Zendaya's character, killing him. One of them him losing the battle. Another of the final battle he has with one of the Freemen.
That's when he's wearing the armor, right? And the mask comes up.
Yeah.
That's one. And one possible future is him becoming a mentor to him.
Yeah,
That guy
the guy he kills at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To prove himself, because remember they're like a warrior.
It's a warrior culture. It's a warrior culture.
It's a culture. It's a own different culture. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's like how I think like the Japanese have the cultural thing where before you go into a house you take off your shoes.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of entering this. You're an outsider entering their culture. How do you come into here? Prove yourself.
Do
in
you remember
battle.
Javier Bardem's introduction? He goes in, spits, and they're like,
But it's a sign of respect.
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
Because moisture is so.
It's very important,
It's
yeah.
a resource. Yeah.
And then once he dies, the guy he kills, Paul, then he's like, okay, life for a life or something like that.
Yeah.
So he has to join
their
the clan.
Their whole culture. But the Bene Gesserit, man, are a good example. For me, they're like a mix of the Jedi, Sith, and the Sisters of Dathomir, to put it that way for you.
That's like the Temu version of Star Wars.
Star Wars is the fucking Timo version, man. I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
bro.
I love Star Wars, but the way
We're
that
gonna
they
have a lot
explain-
of angry watchers, listen to that. This to Star Wars like that.
yeah, because
hold on, like
Yeah,
the
go
one thing I want to say is that the way they explain the voice in the movie. Here's the thing, I'm not saying like one is better than the other. I think they're both their own identity. While George Lucas used this as a foundation to create his own story, the beautiful thing is that he was able to create an identity for his own story. But the laying foundation.
We have more than just a sand planet. We got a whole universe, bro.
We've been on a sand. Literally, you can't even say that. Go to our
let's not make
previous
this a Star Wars
episodes. Go back to our previous episodes. You've said it. I'm tired of the sand planet. Here, Dune goes into actual different cultures. Star Wars, it's like everyone's the same. They just
it doesn't
put on,
feel but I mean,
But
the thing
here,
is,
like the one thing that I want to
Yeah,
say, going back to the Bene Gesserit, like the powers of the power that they have, right?
The desert power.
I think that it's a far more visceral example of the Force, because Star Wars has forever stumbled upon explaining the Force. You have like the good explanations in areas of like the Clone Wars, but if the animated series, right,
Yeah.
where they go more into depth of it. But aside from that, no other series has really explained it. Where like this just kind of goes into it, and you get more of a clear picture
Yeah.
of what it is.
and to understand like the Bene Gesserit and even the Space Guild, you have to understand the background of the Dune universe. So the reason why you don't see
Guns,
That's why-
computers.
is before the Dune universe, there's a jihad called I think it was like the Bulgarian jihad.
The Belhair or something like that.
So what Frank Herbert called the thinking machines. So imagine a future where the AI gets so advanced, and I think there's a particular.
I mean,
quote
you
that I want to look-
kind of see it nowadays, where you see.
Well, I
some
think they
people-
have a lot of tech because that suit.
Yeah,
No,
they
no,
do.
no,
No,
like,
they do.
I was like,
that
but they
suit
don't
was
have the
crazy.
They don't have the tech advancement like we would imagine a future,
future.
10,000 years from now. Why do you think they need spice?
Oh, that's true.
They need
But then
it
again,
because spice is basically only used for space navigators to predict where
Yeah.
they're going to land.
They don't use computers.
The technology, yeah, because
like in Star Wars.
yeah, in
Yeah.
Star Wars they use computers.
They have
they're
like,
like,
they
oh.
have the droid as their GPS.
They,
So-
they have
to
droids.
calculate.
They have the computer that you can see them like trying to calculate. In this universe,
There's no
you
coordinates.
have specific people that are raised from an early age called the Menat.
Mentats.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I don't know what that is.
And
either.
no, it wasn't explained.
Remember the scene right when the heralds arrives
Yeah.
and the Duke Leto ask him, "Oh, how much did they pay for this?"
And then the guy's eyes go white.
He's a
Yeah.
biocomputer. So humans are trained to basically replace computer jobs. they've been
Yeah,
training
eyes
their
went backwards.
they've been training their entire lives to be basically calculators, or even more a lot more complex than calculators.
Supercomputers, pretty much.
Supercomputers that can analyze and can look at vast amounts of data and pick the best
They will
progress
they
forward.
would take the spice from an early age to train to be like this biocomputer.
You mean take it as like consuming it?
Yeah, consuming
because the
it.
spice enhances these certain.
Well, that's what kept getting into Paul's.
you saw it, yeah. Like he was,
and it was awakening like those visions.
They were saying what Dr. Yue said. Oh, you're having an allergic reaction, but the thing is it's the spice.
He's
mixing.
sensitive to it too.
Yeah, it's the spice mixing with his powers.
Yeah.
From the Bene Gesserit powers.
Wasn't that kind of like waking it or something?
Yeah. Like it was enhancing
Yeah,
it. It was
enhancing
enhancing
it.
his visions.
Because at this point, he's on the book. It's similar to like Game of Thrones. You know how Jon Snow in the books is like 15 years old,
Yeah.
and then you have Kit Harington who has a full-on beard.
Yo, he's
like
a grown
that,
man.
That man is not 15
And then
years
Bran
old.
is like 7 years old in the books, and I'm like, dude.
Game of Thrones, Dune deals with the kind of same issue.
And even Ned is supposed to be young. and
Yeah,
he's
a lot
old
younger.
man.
I think Ned is
40, 50 year old
He's like
guy.
50 years old already.
What was it, Sean Bean?
Sean Bean.
Oh
No.
my goodness.
Boromir.
So Dune is similar. Paul Atreides is supposed to be 15.
Yeah.
And so he's been trained as a mentat. He's been learning the ways of the Bene Gesserit, and he's been trained to become
That's why, like, another thing that you mentioned.
a duke.
Yeah, that's the one thing that you mentioned. You're like, oh, I didn't like Timothy Chalamet's acting. And I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily his acting. It was just that the character of Paul Atreides is cold and calculating. He's very,
Yeah.
He's
very
an
just like,
interesting in the book. He's a very interesting character, and I think his acting here in this movie and everyone's acting is going to age better as the Dune Part 2 comes out and Messiah eventually comes out in, I don't know, 3, 5.
No hope.
I guarantee it.
No
I guarantee
hope.
it.
There's no
So
hope there.
what I wanted to say was a very important quote that basically sets up the Dune universe is, once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them.
yeah.
So basically,
So they don't want the tech because they don't want to be
Yeah.
slaves to it.
yeah.
Bro,
So
it's like nowadays how people, a good example like,
AI.
of the start of that is
Yeah,
like how
AI.
people nowadays are like, oh, everyone's always on their phones.
Well, no,
So
and
something
AI's
like
doing
this-
everything. AI's taking jobs
so just
away.
Like,
So
take,
something like this and
take
the-
that like 100 years, and
Yeah.
that'll turn into like a legitimate radical thinking.
Yeah.
You know, and
Something
that's what
like a-
happened here in this universe.
something like an iPhone. If you had an iPhone, if I just set Matthew in the Dune universe right now
With an iPhone.
and with an iPhone, you would they would execute you
Of course.
because something like this is completely illegal.
Yeah.
You can't have any sort of tech
But
thinking machines.
Mr. Duncan Idaho has some cool little gadgets.
Yeah, but they're
Yeah,
not
but he
thi-
got them from the Furman.
They're
Yeah.
not thinking machines. They're not thinking for
Yeah.
them.
Oh.
This
They're
is
not
doing,
computers.
When I'm going through the internet, this is doing calculations.
I was like, he got all this
Yeah.
good stuff
Yeah.
hiding up his sleeve.
Yeah,
man.
everything has to be everything. If their tech is allowed, it's only there to amplify human
Yeah.
ingenuity.
One of it was
not
actually
not
like
to replace
like
it.
a compass, like a cool looking compass.
Yeah.
See, the stuff like that was cool. That I was intrigued by, but everything else, man, it was just terrible, man. Terrible.
Tell me one thing you liked.
I did. I told you. I like the dragonfly helicopters because it reminds you of a dragonfly. The wings and the way it's shaped. That was cool. That the CGI was perfect. I think.
Yeah, they won an award for it. They won an Academy Award for that.
The only thing I didn't
cinematography.
like was I didn't like the fighting. I didn't like Paul's character. I like.
Were you confused with the? That's one thing I read a lot after this movie came out. What 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Were you confused about the rules of the fighting? Because that's one thing. Surprisingly, I saw people were confused.
I didn't
like,
understand that.
How did the shield work? And they're
The
like,
shield
the
thing was-
slow blade penetrates the
Yeah.
shield. I'm like, it tells you.
I didn't like the shield stuff. I'm gonna be
Okay.
honest. That was stupid. In my opinion, that whole blue and then it turns red when it penetrates and.
You should have seen the 1984 Dune shield. Keep talking. I was really looking up.
Oh my god!
So I could just show you.
But no, I liked the CGI. I liked the those helicopters. If I had to say I like the character out of everybody, which is hard, it's gonna probably be Jason Momoa's character, just because I could see he's the only one that really went in and started fighting.
when I first watched the
Duncan
movie,
Idaho.
he was my least favorite character because he just acted like Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
He was just
But
Aquaman.
but the Duncan Idaho it brings humanity to it. Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah,
the camera
yeah.
is able to catch this. Anyone who's ever seen I mean, if you're a Dune fan, you have seen the 1984 David
They
Lynch.
look like Roblox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the shields. The shields.
Bro,
is
I'm
really
telling
bad.
you, it's just that this is a very difficult like piece of license
Live mat reaction to
put
the
it.
shield.
Jeez, dude, what is that?
Yeah, it was
Oh
really
my
bad.
God.
I guess from that time frame, but to be honest, yeah, it's so hard, and like even doing this episode talking about this, like being someone who's not informed the way y'all are, but I just couldn't grasp anything that's major about it.
That makes sense to me because
No,
I
it's
read
fine,
the
yeah.
book before, and I've seen Dune now 4 times. I watched it recently to get ready for the podcast, like 2 days ago, and I rewatched the 1984 version. That was a struggle. The 1984 version.
I think they did good with what happened with Oscar Isaac's character, because obviously in the perfect world we want someone to, we want him to live, right? But man, I was like, dude, this guy really thinks he's gonna get away, and they're gonna give him back his wife.
You're talking about Dr. Yue.
Dr. Yue, yeah. I'm like, dude, they're gonna kill this
Yeah,
guy.
classic.
And Kexi,
Bro, it wasn't
Boom.
that dark? Like how he just kind of floats over and he's like
Eating.
What did
Yeah.
yeah. You delivered to the word. What did I
you really,
promise you?
just the way that he's talking to him,
Yeah,
was
bro,
like,
I'm
dude,
like, this
you're about
guy.
to die.
Yeah, like how do you trust anything this guy says? Like, what did I promise you? Like,
And
I'm
this
gonna
guy's-
reunite you with her?
Yep.
Oh, I'll do that.
Yep.
Slices
You
his
can
head off.
you can join her.
I already knew she was already dead.
Yeah, that's how.
And then-
100%.
But what got to me, Oscar's character, and he's just staring at a tear just
Oof,
drops.
isn't that beautiful acting?
And then I'm like, damn, because he's like, dude, you gave up your house.
No, everything. He lost everything. The way he says it too. He's like,
Not
your
only-
concubine's dead. Your son is dead. Your house is fallen. And then it's like you just see it where it's like part of me, while yes, Leto is mourning the loss of his house. I think he's just mourning more so the loss of his family. And that's the big one for me.
That not only that's the hard part, but just the fact that Dr. Yue sacrificed Leto, thinking that, well, not Leto, he sacrificed everybody
No, he sacrificed the whole house
to
bro.
save
Yeah.
to think that he was gonna be saved
Isn't that
for his
insane?
wife.
Isn't that insane?
I'm like, did I really just watch this?
Yeah.
This guy just gave up the Duke, thinking that these bad people are gonna give up his wife, sacrificing them. They don't care. They're savages.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna kill
So that's
you.
why you had like that.
And this guy's butt naked in the chair. I'm like,
the Baron, bro. The Baron's
this
a
guy's
weird
just
guy.
eating.
Yeah.
Well, he's
Cousin, you have
he's
a great
there-
kitchen.
You got a great kitchen.
And he's like eating like a whole turkey.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that's savage.
Yeah. No, bro. The Baron, for me, has to be one of the worst villains. In media, in all of this, and this is because you don't know like the book Baron. He's so much worse.
Yeah.
Like he's a piece of shit. Like
Yeah.
I gotta say that. Like just to put it bluntly,
What did you think about that whole tooth thing?
I thought it was
The poison.
It was super
it
like
was
a CIA type espionage type movie thing.
Well,
I
you see
enjoyed
that
it.
a lot from I seen it in like Marvel and whatnot. One of the like in Captain America.
Yeah.
When he was chasing that bad guy and then he
Like it was like a
Yeah.
cyanide pill, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
from like a Cold War type
Yep,
thing.
Yes, that's what
I'm
I'm
gonna show him the 1984 Baron.
Jeez.
He has boils on his skin.
disgusting.
Yeah, but that's what he is. He's a very disgusting person.
So and then what's his name? This guy died in there. Peter DeVere.
His mentat.
The guy David. That's
I'm pretty sure.
Malkian?
Do you have that up there? Pretty sure that was the mentat.
Peter.
Piter.
Oh yeah, the mentat.
He died there.
That's the Baron's mentat. Yeah,
he
he
died.
died.
He died from the poison.
Yeah.
Well, everybody pretty much besides the Baron.
The Baron escaped because he was
Yeah.
able to float above the poison
And he
cloud.
activated his shield
Yeah,
before.
because you saw it. You saw it. It's funny where he. Funny enough, his name is Vladimir.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and I'm just like, he reminds me of Putin,
No,
right?
yeah.
Where it's like he
Remember
tries to play off
This
this
book
like,
was written in 1965. almost the height of the Cold War.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
You have this guy who's very he tries to give off this like I kind of rule everything. I'm in your face.
Yeah, he acts like
But
shit don't stink.
Exactly. But you saw where Leto whispers something and he's like, "What?" And he wants to hear what he says.
He wants to glow. He wants to glow
'cause
that he
wants
won.
to glow. But you see that he's still nervous about losing his own life. That he turns on his shield.
Yep.
Before
Yeah.
he moves in.
That was a good. That was a cool little scene because he's like
Yeah.
and all that,
Yeah.
and it's just, And then
Yeah.
you see everybody trying to run.
Yeah, I liked how immediate it was and I liked how they were like, close the doors, like they were just like,
Yo, forget this.
I'm sorry.
They already knew it was
Even
gonna
the two guys
happen.
only just, I'm sorry, Baron.
Yeah,
They closed the door on
yeah.
him.
But that was
Those
the
guys
good-
after that, when Baron died,
Yeah.
they find out, wait, the Baron lived?
Oh,
And the Baron's like,
kills them.
you closed the door on me?
What was that black stuff he walked out of?
it was kind of, think about it, kind of
I
like
think it was Pepsi.
Yo, for real, man.
It was
Some like
Futuristic.
Dragon Ball Z
Right, that's what I was
hydrobaric
thinking.
chamber. I don't know. It's never explained, but probably some like sort of thing.
honestly,
they-
I think it's Epsom salt
That's the song.
Yeah.
some sort of material that
Helps with the inflammation.
with a dash of lavender.
that stimulates healing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Because
Some eucalyptus
you saw
in there.
you saw kind of like the medicine woman. I'm
Yeah.
gonna just call her. She came over, poured something
Yeah.
in there, and then you had Batista's character come in and
Yeah.
was like,
Baptista's
how is-
always screaming.
Yeah, Batista, you could see is
I
like
love
the
him.
emotional warmonger for his uncle,
yeah.
right? But you saw when he was like, oh, like he's trying to talk to, and she was like, he's not done healing, you know. But you see how ruthless the Baron is in that moment too, where he like comes out of out of his liquid, and was like. You had I think Batista's character is called Rahad, something like that.
no, Galasu Raban.
Yeah,
Rabban. So
yeah,
Galasu
Raven. So like his character, he was like, "What do we do with the Furman?" You know, and then he was like, "Kill them all." Yeah, and it just goes back into his liquid, and you just see how I mean, he literally laid genocide to House Atreides,
yeah.
and now he's gonna do the same thing to the Furman. And this was, remember, Leto knew this was coming. That's why he was like, the whole, that's it. Trying to get Paul ready. That's why Gurney. Remember, Duncan Idaho's the one that's been training Paul.
I thought Gurney was.
They both were.
are. So, but remember, but the long-term trainer of Paul
Was Duncan.
It was Duncan, but Leto sent Duncan specifically to the firm to Arrakis early
To try to set up a like diplomatic
to befriend the Furman.
Yeah.
Because he
Because was the Furman already there before everybody else?
No, yeah, they're the people there. They're the native
Freeman
people
is
there.
the native.
Oh,
They've been living there
okay.
for in this universe, 5,000+ years, maybe longer.
So that was the whole.
That's why they control that sand thing. That sand
Yeah,
worm.
they're able
They-
to control
yeah.
the sand.
What's it called?
Shadi Halud. Yeah, that's what they call it. Shadi Halud.
Shadi Hello.
Yeah, bro, like it's crazy.
So I got a question. So the
Oh wait. Let me finish something real quick. That was the whole thing of desert power, Matt. That's where it comes from.
Desert
because
About to go
because
Super Saiyan up in
because
here.
Leto knew what was coming, and he knew that the only way to fight House Harkonnen and
Yeah.
the Emperor is to unite House Atreides with the Furman, because the Harkonnen are obviously coming in. The Harkonnen were there and they ruled with an iron fist, but they never tried to understand the people or the
Yeah.
planet. They just wanted the spice.
They took the spice no matter what it
Yeah,
took.
so Leto wanted to befriend them, learn their culture, and get them to teach them the ways of living on this inhospitable planet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole desert power thing, because, bro,
Well, you just see
imagine-
the far the distance that guy just.
that's what I'm saying.
Right,
bro,
that sand
imagine
worm.
riding the sand. And you saw the sandworm when Paul was watching the educational
That thing
video.
was crazy.
They're like, oh, the sandworms of Arrakis grow to lengths of over
400
400 meters,
Yeah.
which is like over like 1,000 feet long.
Yeah.
I'm like, you saw how
Jeez,
big it
that
was.
thing is massive.
So I'm like, bro, a few little ships coming down.
I mean,
is it gonna
that-
stop this
that
thing?
that first introduction of the worm,
Eating
where,
the
yeah.
grazer thing.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
when Matt, when Matt has his vision, when Paul has his,
Matt stays having visions, bro.
when Paul
Eyes
has,
go backwards.
when Paul is having his visions, he's distracted, and he's running back. I think who ends up saving him? Was it Duncan?
It was Gurney.
It was Gurney. Okay.
Gurney saves him.
It was that cool. It was a little shout out because remember, Paul
Oh
was
yeah, because
training.
Duncan isn't back yet. I
Yeah,
think.
Paul's training, and then Gurney walks in the training room, right? And then he was like, "You
That
never
was
turn
just-
your back on the door."
Yeah.
and he's like, "I can
recognize
recognize
their
your footsteps."
footsteps.
And then when Paul's having his visions, he's like, "I recognize your footsteps, old man." And he knew Gurney was coming.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Like it was the whole thing.
That was just, but that scene was, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't understand it because
Yeah, yeah.
Gurney was on the ship with Leto at the moment, and next thing you know, he's like he grabs Paul.
Yeah, he ran back. Yeah, he ran
'cause
back.
Paul, that was Paul.
You see Paul here.
That was Paul's-
You see all the spice. I'm like, this dude is sniffing all this spice.
That was
man.
Paul's first
He's
reaction.
tripping.
He's tripping for
Yeah.
real.
That was
tripping.
Paul's first
Yo,
reaction
he
to
went to go see
spice.
Jesus, man.
And so Paul is our.
He is Jesus.
Yeah.
He's the
He's the next Messiah, bro.
He's the lisan al gaib, bro.
I can't say much without spoiling, but
Stop spoiling.
The
Man, I
idea,
gotta ask this though.
wait, the idea of this is why I love the Dune universe and the story that Frank Herbert
Terrible
wrote,
universe.
because once you get it, it flips on its head. The whole idea of waiting for a savior, waiting for a messiah, it flips on its head, that very idea. Because
Yeah.
this movie almost sets up like, Paul's, typical Anakin Skywalker,
Yeah.
chosen one. He's going to do
I'm
this
good,
and
bro.
here.
You want more?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Sure?
Yeah.
Man, I see you dehydrated over there, bro. I'm trying to hook you up, bro.
So,
My still suit isn't working.
so
I want one of those suits though.
the suits were good. Like
Well, I like how that's what I was trying to get to with that. I forget her name.
Who? Johnny?
The Fenrir? What do you call them again?
Furman?
The Furman.
Oh,
The one that we
It's kind of like the mediator.
Guinea
She's
almost
the-
chopped his head off.
she's the Imperial oncologist.
Remember when they were coming?
Heidi?
And then
I know who you're talking about. I just can't remember the name
She's
of the
the
character.
she's the ecologist of Dune that she was been there for 20 years. So
Yeah.
she's not technically a Freeman, but she's
What do you mean she has blue eyes.
yeah,
But it's because she's been there for so long.
You get the what they call the eyes of Ibad, the blue eyes,
Yeah.
from your exposure to spice over long periods of
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Just being
So
walking
she's
on
been
the
there-
dunes.
But when she was greeting them, Gurney almost chopped her head off.
Yeah, yeah.
But and then she starts explaining the suit. I like that because that suit. I didn't realize. I'm like, dude, that filters your sweat and turns it into water for you to drink. I'm like,
I mean,
jeez.
so something like that, which is interesting in the Dune universe, that's something way beyond our current level of technology.
Heck yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. When you're talking about they don't want no tech.
It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with computers, electronics. It has,
Crazy.
It has everything to do with you moving, filters, and powers the system. It has everything
is
to do with
crazy,
technology.
man.
So that's why it's interesting
an
with the Dune
interesting
universe.
world.
But still
yeah.
considered tech though. Technology.
100%.
Yeah.
But what they're worried about is
It's computer.
thinking machines.
Yeah, machines
There's a lot
yeah.
of think about tech before, because we're so computer centric in our world,
Yeah.
right? Think about our tech before the amazing things human. I mean, look at a classic watch,
Yeah.
all the gears,
Yeah.
right? If you imagine a world where the analog technology kept increasing, but we left
Well, there
behind
was technology back then. It just wasn't digital stuff.
yeah. But imagine
Like the
Ima-
Mayans predicting how long it takes from the sun to hit Earth, which
Yeah.
is 7 minutes. So
So just imagine 10,000 years of analog technology progression. You get something
yeah, that was cool.
amazing.
I like that the explanation on that. I did like the part when is it her that she said that her husband died or something like that?
She fell in love with a Fremen warrior.
Yeah, I think he
and
died
and
one.
he was killed in battle.
But I liked when
by Harkonnen.
she gets stabbed, and then I like how she I don't know, she summons the damn worm and just gets swallowed.
Yeah, so
She didn't
the
summon the worm.
The Fremen.
because she's like boom.
Yeah,
boom.
the Fremen. If you saw that first device
Yeah.
that she put down, they're called thumpers, and they do that
A
to,
specific vibration that
Yeah.
attracts the worms.
because that's
But when he Matt said she summoned the worm, I just imagine like Naruto summoning worms. But
Yeah.
Summoning jutsu.
what were we gonna say?
But I think that was a cool scene too.
yeah.
'Cause
Because
I
you could
didn't-
tell
it was right there.
You're about to see the power that was not the desert power.
Yeah.
the ability that the Fremen have.
desert power.
Yeah, the ability that the Fremen have, where they have like a coexisting relationship with the sandworm.
Yeah.
So she was about to do it. She was calling the worm, not for the worm to like destroy anything, but she was calling the worm to ride the worm away because of the immediate threat that was
I
happening.
thought she got eaten.
She did. Because she got stabbed.
Yeah.
You know.
So she was sacrificing herself.
yeah, at that point,
Yeah,
she,
yeah.
that's
At
why she
that point,
used
at
the
that
thumper.
point, yeah. At that point, that's why she started hitting the ground because she was like, "No, I want the worm to eat here." Because she realized she was like, "No, this wound is
Kill those guys. Well, because
Yeah.
they were chasing Paul.
Yeah, they were chasing
And she was
Paul.
trying to redirect.
And that's the
them.
thing where the Bene Gesserit, if you remember when Paul, Leto, and Lady Jessica first arrived on Arrakis, when they were walking out,
Yeah.
and you saw the Fremen in the distance, and they were shouting "Lisan al Gaib, Lisan al Gaib,"
Get the hell out of here.
because that's their legend, their religion is about a Messiah coming to their like
So
with
did
any
they
religion.
beef with
And-
the Harakans?
Yeah, the Harukin ruled Arrakis with an iron fist.
Yeah.
When you say Hadouken.
It, Harkonnens, right?
Harkonnens.
Yeah,
Harkonnens.
they're like the pronunciation, like the what was it? The Kozah Hadarik. Yeah, the pronunciations are very something. They're hard.
Yeah, that's why I just kind of stick to trying to pronounce it like elves, like elvish.
Yeah, it's
easier.
What's the worm name again?
Shari Halut.
Charlie Hello.
Yeah. So the thing is, obviously, if you
That'll
haven't
be a cool
realized,
summoning right
if you
there.
haven't realized it by now, like there's a lot of reference to Middle Eastern culture.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So
And that's one thing I gotta say I like. I love anything related to that type of stuff.
So if you realize,
or like anything like that, or medieval, or something
Yeah.
that takes it.
so if you realize the spice is actually in reference to oil in the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like that's
Yeah.
pretty much the oil.
Yeah, so-
well, that's what I got from Star Wars too. As I got older, because
Yeah.
remember, Star Wars came out when I was younger. Obviously, when we were
Yeah,
all
we
younger,
grew up- we
so
grew up
I
more
never
with the
understood
prequel.
spice.
Yeah.
I didn't understand
well,
that.
Spice in Star Wars is
I think
heroin.
Yeah, but I didn't understand that.
Typical, typical.
I
drug
would say
for
that
us.
Star Wars
I-
goes more what George Lucas wanted to do, which is what I liked, the whole trade federation thing. Right?
Exactly.
That
Kind of like how they brought cocaine to the U.S.
yeah,
and all that
those
crazy
that type of trade that when we started becoming more globalist, right? That was the era.
Yeah.
And because of the internet, things like that.
Yeah.
But being so young, I didn't understand.
Oh, for
that.
sure.
I wanted to go back to where you mentioned what did they call Lady Jessica and Paul Atreides when
They're specifically calling
The Al-Gaib.
Paul Lisan Al-Gaib, which is a translation to chosen one,
yeah
Messiah.
So one thing I loved about
We
the
got a
Dune,
midi-chlorian of like 20 million.
no, that's the thing. The one thing I loved about Dune universe, it like I told you before, it flips on its head the typical Messiah.
yeah, so that's what I was about to explain. So listen
do
to
you
this.
do you remember the scene where Lady Jessica is choosing a house cleaner,
Like kind of
housemaid?
like a housemaid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she dismisses everyone else, and then she focuses on this
Yes.
one woman. And then she oh, I know you have a blade. She removes the blade. She
Yes.
takes out the blade, and she says, "Do you know
Chris
what this?
knife.
A Chris knife?" And then
Yes.
she says, "But what is it specifically?" And then you see she does like a sign language to her
Prepare for violence.
prepare for violence
Yeah.
because she at that point she wasn't sure that whatever word she was going to say was going to work. What word did she say? That it's I don't remember right now. But she used a specific word that had to do with the Freeman's mythology, and the lady was like, "Oh my god!" She falls to her knees.
Like you saw her, she's like, ah.
yeah.
Like
So-
it was someone that's overly religious,
So-
and what she was like, I can't remember the word, but the translation was just a gift.
Yeah. So the typical chosen one story is Lady Jessica and Paul, because the myth is
So Paul's a chosen one.
no,
type
he
of
isn't.
Oh.
He
He
isn't. That's precisely why Dune is so interesting.
Because
the
the
Bene Gesserit has been controlling all these planets for thousands of years. Just by the off chance, if a Bene Gesserit sister is stranded on these planets, she can use this information warfare to basically let her safe off the planet.
Yeah.
So Lady
Yeah.
Jessica, she's trained.
That's why she was saying at the end, like, we need to get off this planet, right? To
Yeah,
try to,
but at that point, Paul has already seen multiple visions. He's already seen the he's already seen the vision
Yeah.
of his life, basically his life
so
path.
they're just a bloodline that has these type of powers or visions.
Yeah, but they take advantage of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Similar-
they can see ahead of
Yeah,
time.
they
right?
take
Yeah, yeah.
advantage of people's religions, mythologies.
So what they
it's-
did-
Paul is not a chosen one.
Yeah.
He's just a eugenics program gone mad,
Yeah.
basically. At
Is
this
that
point.
why that lady Gaius or whatnot? She says something about Paul, like, Remember when she was facing him, and then he was like having some meltdown or
The
breakdown?
test?
The
The
test,
test,
yeah.
yeah.
And then she's like saying like
That's what I want-
negative about him or whatnot. Like,
so
like,
that goes into reference.
I don't know
on-
what like if I'm saying it correctly, like where like he's not the right one to train or
so
whatnot.
this is the equivalent. Here's why this is. I more than anything, I give him a reference to the mother, the Dathomir.
Yeah.
the Dathomir sisters. They only want women.
Yeah.
So you saw it like after that test, when she was walking away from her ship, Lady Jessica was falling because that's her
Yeah,
mom.
exactly.
And she was like, oh, and she's like, so much wasted potential on
Yeah,
a male.
yep.
You were told to only bear daughters.
Daughters, yep.
And that's the thing.
It's funny because in universes it's usually the opposite.
Yeah.
You're supposed to bear the
But
the
it's
son.
it's the equivalent to when Maul and Savage
So-
were
Yes.
born. When they're like,
This-
send them off.
Yep.
So it's just the daughters of
This-
Dathomir.
this
It's
goes
that
mo-
same concept here. And then what to
Yeah.
allude to what Giovanni was saying, at that scene that I'm talking about, when they get off the ship, they first get to Arrakis, and then they're shouting Lisan al-Gaib, and then they finally get into the ship, and then you see Paul. Like Paul doesn't like it because Paul knows.
Yeah.
So Paul tells him, he's like, what are they shouting? And then Lady Jessica was like, oh, Lisan al-Gaib. Messiah, chosen one. The Bene Gesserit has been at work here.
Yeah.
She said that. And
So
that
there's
means
key
that
words that every sister is trained on. As soon as they might land on a planet,
Yeah.
by the way people react to certain words they might say, they're like, oh, okay, I know the Bene Gesserit's been here. If I say this particular word, I know they'll accept me as maybe an important person.
Because you're respecting their religion or whatnot.
No, not respecting that. You're
manipulating it.
It's like if I were to appear in the 1200s and then say specific things are going to happen in the future.
Ooh.
And then
that's the Messiah.
And then
Yeah.
So you take advantage of their current mythology because you're the one who wrote it.
So that's why. So since she's having visions of they have the visions of the future, or they can see different visions, they take advantage of that. They use it as their like a weapon in a sense.
Yeah.
But I have a question though.
The
about,
Bene Gesserit, that's the thing, because I wanted to mention, the Bene Gesserit doesn't necessarily have prescience. That's the difference. The Bene Gesserit, what they have is what they call, remember Assassin's Creed with the whole
Yeah.
genetic memory?
Yeah.
So the Bene Gesserit has genetic memory, similar to the female chromosome. I'm pretty sure that's where
Yeah.
Frank Herbert got the idea from actual science. So the Bene Gesserit females in this world, they have the memory of past lives.
Okay.
Specific. The males in this universe, they have memories of prescience. So the Kuzat Hadarik is basically one person that they've been trying to, make for thousands of years in these genetic programs to have both prescience,
Yeah.
to have memories of the past.
Okay.
And
So imagine
visions of the future.
Imagine a baby that's born that has memories of thousands of lifetimes.
That's crazy.
It's a god at that point,
Yeah.
and plus you have the ability to see the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, you're going to be pretty much the Messiah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
You're gonna be
so Paul.
Jesus.
So when Jessica had a baby boy with Leto, she wasn't meant to do that.
Yeah.
She was meant to have a girl.
A girl.
That girl was supposed to then get married to a Harkonnen. And that couple was supposed to have the Kwizik Hadarik. That's
Yeah.
been going on for that
So was that supposed to
experiment.
combine
that
the houses
Yeah.
and
for
kind of create a whole new...
political and religious and so many goals. So that was going to produce
Yeah.
that Kwizik Hadarik. Lady Jessica went against the Bene Gesserit and wanted to give Leto, because she actually fell in love with him,
Yeah.
a boy.
Yeah.
So that's why the Reverend Mother was so angry because
she went
ba-
against the code.
She went
Yeah,
against
exactly.
Girl code, baby.
She went against something.
Does this sound familiar?
She went against
going against the dogmatic thing of not having a relationship and having
Yeah.
children. Does
the
that sound
Jedi
familiar?
Order.
What is that?
Y'all gotta fill me in this. Why
Yeah.
did Leto?
BBS?
I had BBS. I'm watching that tonight. Why did Leto tell Lady Jessica, if you would give your life, but she's like, I'll give my life, but he says something about not you.
Because at the
she
end of
had-
the day, she's still part of the Bene Gesserit.
She has-
That's what he meant, right?
Yeah.
The Bennett,
because she I mean, if she was solely acting in the
because
interest
he
of,
wasn't saying you personally,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
If-
guess that
like you as a member of the Bene Gesserit.
if she was solely acting for the Bene Gesserit's interest, she would kill Paul.
Yeah.
Because Paul went against.
Exactly.
Having Paul went against a program that's been going on for 5,000 plus years.
Yeah.
She was supposed to have a daughter, and that daughter was then with the Harkonnen supposed to produce their Messiah.
Yeah.
She went against it, and then she
it's
basi-
causing this war, pretty much. Civil war.
She went against it and messed up this plan that's been going on for thousands of
Yeah.
years, and that's why they're not sure with Paul, because since they've been planning this genetic program for so many years, they're not sure what Paul is.
So there's
He's-
no Messiah right now.
their version of the Messiah is solely in pragmatic and materialistic means. Is the
Well,
Bene
well,
Gesserit, the Bene Gesserit isn't necessarily religious. They don't.
Yeah,
they're
what
not.
I'm s-
They have their dogma, but they're not
Okay.
necessarily. Their Messiah is still human with
Correct.
these certain abilities.
Yeah,
so
that's
they're
what
not
I'm trying to
religious.
say.
They're-
That Paul is not the Messiah that we all think of, even though he has all these powers.
Yeah,
and
But they
whatnot.
will use
he
the-
will be the most powerful one of the order.
But they will use
Okay.
use the story of the Messiah
To control
the
everything.
masses. But the Bene
Yeah.
Gesserit themselves know, he's
But
just a
he's
man.
not going to be the antagonist. He's still going to be the protagonist, right? He's going to be
That's
the
what
good
makes
guy.
that's what makes
That's
Dune
what the interesting
that's
part.
what makes Dune so interesting, because it flips it on his head.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the Messiah who brings noble.
Yeah.
Remember the main
Because
vision.
he's the first male.
Does this sound familiar? You're the chosen one. You're supposed to bring balance to the
I
force.
still watch Star Wars over this this damn
so-
movie, man.
so-
This damn movie makes no sense.
I mean, I think it's making sense. I see it in your. I see the. I
he
see.
started getting interested.
I see the. I see the glitz. You see the
You
glitz.
see the spice?
You see the spike right there.
Oh my gosh.
So when when Paul was having the vision in the tent right after they escape. This is second time.
a good
vision.
Second time with his exposure to spice.
All he wanted to do was see Zendaya. That's
I
it, man.
was on the way here. I was
Bro,
like,
I have the best explanation
No,
for it.
so- yeah, go ahead.
For Zendaya in part, because Zendaya's gonna be a major part, but like, she's a major part of
when,
Dune.
when they released the trailer for Dune 1, everybody thought she was going to be part of the whole movie.
They make it seem like
But all
she
she
dies in
got-
the whole movie.
all
she got 2 seconds of screen time.
When I
man.
called her, I was like, "Yo, she was a music video actor."
Yo, for
like,
real.
she was just like,
I was telling my brother on the way here. It was
How you doing?
it was those Johnny the Sauvage
the
commercials.
Dior Sauvage Johnny Depp commercials.
Yo, for
That's what
real.
it
Remember, he's
was.
always in the desert with
Yep.
the perfume or the cologne.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
so when he's having the vision, and he says when Lady Jessica tries to comfort him, and he's having these waking visions
Yeah.
at this point. Because at this point, it's only been this is his second waking vision, and he's only ever seen dream visions.
Okay.
So he's having an actual waking vision, and what he sees is Freeman, showing the banner of a House Atreides, going throughout the known universe and taking over planets over planet
That
over
was the
planet.
scary part because
That's
all he had
is
seen
it
up to
galac-
that point is in Arrakis, but that big one that he had in the tent. This isn't just about saving Arrakis now. No, now he's seeing a holy war
Yeah.
of expansion of consumption.
But it's more than saving
Yeah.
because he sees this vision. In the book, it goes a little bit more into it, but he sees this vision either this is going to happen whether or not Paul even leads them.
yeah.
They're going to choose another Muad'Dib, right?
Yeah.
He's not necessarily, if he takes advantage of this political situation on the current circumstance of this history, he could be this leader and then lead it to the best path forward.
Another
So-
good example.
So he screams to his mother, I see billions died for my father's name, yelling my father's name.
Worshiping at the
holy
worshiping
warrior.
at the skull of my father. A holy war expanding.
It's a crusade that spans the entire empire. And that's why he screams at his mother at this point. You made me this.
Yeah, I remember that part.
So that whole scene is the equivalent of Eren touching Historia.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Like
he sees all
literally,
this.
Paul Atreides is similar to Eren.
Yeah.
Where it's like he sees everything, like multiple paths, and he was like, I gotta choose one because all of them, are they a villain? Sure.
Some of them he dies. Some of them Cheney kills him. Some of them the guy he's supposed to kill at the end, he becomes his teacher and mentor.
Yeah.
But that path might lead to something else.
But then others,
But see,
he's
so
a
it's
conquering
it's a-
tyrant.
remember-
I couldn't even understand
Yeah,
those
but it's
damn
hard. That's what I'm
visions.
saying. Reading the book and watching the movie, you're like, oh, this is so good because it's all these certain.
it's so terrible.
No, it is. I guarantee you, it's good because
Yeah.
you see these certain things that go beyond just hand holding you and give you exposition, similar
Yeah.
to the 1984 dude.
Yeah.
The 1984 dude just back to back. This is what's happening. The thinking
Yeah.
machines. Yeah, it over explains things rather than, and then it becomes almost like a visual novel rather than an actual film. So Paul has these multiple paths ahead of him, and all he can do with these certain paths is modify his behavior to get the path that he wants.
Yeah.
At this current point, he already sees a path. He could leave the planet, and that's why Lady Jessica at this point she looks at him almost in a fearful way.
Yeah, because now she's afraid. But
Because
this
she realizes everything that Bene Gesserit has done and what she's done to her son, what is going to lead to the future.
Yeah.
That's why we have
But
to get out. We have
yeah,
to
way
get
to
off
go.
this planet.
But
We have to
this
get
was-
off this planet.
But this was exactly
Nah,
what
I'm
his
tapping into the
But
desert rap.
the desert.
but this is exactly what his father wanted.
Yeah.
This is what his father wanted for him, where he was like, I didn't want it,
But he
but
knew.
I found a way to make it mine, and
I
maybe
mean, I
you'll
would-
find
I would
your
ar-
own.
I would honestly
unlike
ar-
Jon Snow.
I would.
I do not want to.
John, that's another thing.
I want to be king.
Jon Snow was destroyed in the show, but Jon Snow's a really interesting character in the books. But that's another podcast. But Leto, I would argue Leto doesn't even know. He wouldn't want what Paul ends up deciding towards the end of the movie. What it seems,
Yeah.
he wouldn't want that because Leto doesn't want him to get revenge.
No,
Paul is balancing certain things. He's
Well, the savior of their race is pretty much what.
he's balancing the possible future that's going to happen no matter what
Yeah.
he does.
Yeah.
His survival,
Which is
and
like
his-
the whole desert power thing, where it's like he's trying to
his survival and his mother's survival, his future younger sister's survival because Lady Jessica is pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because he mentioned that.
His life because he wants to obviously he doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
And the potential revenge against the Harkonnens and the Empire. He's balancing all these things, and in the book, he's a 15-year-old boy. All this is happening to him, and he's trying to decide, okay, which is the best path forward for my survival, my revenge, and the survival of my family and house.
Yeah, you saw it where there was the scene where they escaped already the siege of the city, and they were there with it was Paul, Lady Jessica, and the ecologist, and Paul was just kind of like, oh, we have friends in the Empire. Maybe the Emperor has daughters
he's still naive.
that I can marry. And then the ecologist just kind of looks at him and she's like, you really don't know how deep you are. Like something that simple isn't gonna fix the larger picture of this.
Facts.
Yeah.
But overall, I want to give you my rating of the movie, okay? Because this is just part one, right? We still gotta wait for part two. I'll wait till it comes on Max and I'll watch it on that. But I give it a 3 out of 10, and I give it a 3 out of 10 because I not only that I did not understand it, it's something that did not click with me, like Game of Thrones, or I'll even watch Lord of the Rings over this, and Lord of the Rings didn't attach.
I can
to me
accept
that
the
way.
Lord of the Rings part.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
But that's the thing. Like Lord of the Rings is not as attached to me like it is to you two as well. And I think just because of the time it came out in, but the story, the acting, the fight scenes, I can go on. The reason why I personally don't think it was as big as other people think of.
It was huge.
It's just not my cup of tea. I think Star Wars is probably the greatest in that genre when it comes down to space and sci-fi, for sure. It beats Star Trek, it beats Dune, it beats a lot.
We can have a whole episode of Star Trek. I love Star Trek.
Even though it's a great
Star
world
Trek's
there
great,
too.
yeah.
But I think after watching it, I think it was brutal for me, and I don't think I can go back and watch it as many times as you watched it.
Yeah.
But I will watch Doom Part 2 because we gotta have
a complete story.
Another episode. So hopefully, I'm taking your word that it's a lot better than Part 1. But that's my rating. I want to know what your ratings are, and you don't be biased now.
No. This is not me being biased. This is me watching the movie. Listen, I haven't. You mentioned that I've read the book. I'll let you know that I have not read the book.
Dude, you got the book at home.
I haven't started it, bro. Like I told you, I have a large list.
That book looked like it's from 100 years ago.
That's good. This is like I like my books like that.
1965.
But I will say, this is me just watching the movie, and this is what I took from the movie. Like everything that I'm saying here.
Bandwagon.
No, it's not even a bandwagon because
Dune is never going to be as popular as Star Wars. It's just
it's not for the masses.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's not going to
for
make
the
a mainstream type of appeal.
Yeah.
What were we going to say about your rating?
No, I give the movie a 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
that's my rating for the film. Remember, this is the same guy that gave one of the worst films of the year last year his best, which was Rebel Moon. So that's another episode. But just
yeah.
But I think that what
we gotta do a podcast on that.
We will. Yeah,
we
absolutely.
have to.
After Part 2.
What this story does, it's a coming of age story with Paul becoming the chosen one of prophecy, not a true prophecy for sure, a manipulated one, but he's becoming it. And the movie also, what I think gives a perspective of oppression, right?
Yeah.
Because it shows you how religious radicalism can begin as a noble cause, but becomes its own evil when the oppressed become the new oppressors.
Yeah.
And this was why Leto, for me, is my favorite character from Dune, because that was as simple as it was. That's what he meant with desert power. He wanted to unite House Atreides.
That was such a corny line
with the people.
It's funny.
It is corny. I won't lie about that.
But he talks about air power, water power.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Ocean power. I think
there's enough exposition in this whole film that for him to then have to explain to Paul. Listen,
in military terms,
we have to negotiate terms. You know what I mean? So just saying desert, and then you see at the end where Paul goes through the whole He kills that warrior. And you saw before the fight starts, Lady Jessica goes to Stilgar, and she's like, "Oh, you have to stop this." He's like, "No, like this is the way, pretty much, right? Like
Yeah.
the Mandalorians, where it's like this is the way, this is what we have, this is how we do things." And then you saw how easily Paul was handling the Fremen warrior.
Well, yeah, because
And-
he never killed anybody, so he was holding back the whole time.
exactly. But then that was the thing
And
where
we
Stilgar.
we don't know how many times he's seen this battle.
Yeah, that's the
He
thing.
might
Remember,
even-
this is
he-
the equivalent of
Well, he's
of-
probably was trying to prevent death.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's trying
He's
to prevent
never-
death, and he's like,
he's never killed.
He's killed it.
anybody.
He's probably killed in his vision.
in his
Yeah.
vision, but like his actual experience, he hasn't done it. And this whole time in this whole film, it's just Paul accepting that he is the Kwisatz Haderach. And in that moment,
Hey, little punk.
where Stilgar looks at Lady Jessica in the midst of their battle, and he goes, "Is he toying with him? Like, why doesn't he just kill
He
him?"
thought Paul was gonna die because
Yeah,
Paul never
everyone
had.
did.
Yeah,
Chani was like, "Oh, I want you to use my family's Chris knife. It'll be a great honor for you to die with this knife." I can't remember his name.
Shanks homeboy right in the back.
I can't remember his
I mean,
name.
that's one of his visions.
Yeah.
she's about. They're in the middle of kissing, and she just stabs him.
Yeah,
and he's like,
I can't remember the warrior's name that he was fighting, but he kills him.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, he's a great warrior." So then he starts, and he's just like Neo. When funny enough, the Matrix has semblance to
Yeah.
this as well. When Neo woke back up as the one, it reminded me so much of that first battle with Agent Smith, this domineering power for the entire film, and then Neo is just blocking everything. And you saw it with Paul, where Paul was just like, "Come on, dude, like I don't want to do this."
Wanna dance?
And then Stilgar looks over. Is he toying with him? What's going on? Paul's never killed a man. And then you see the whole time Paul's going through these all the flashbacks of the buildup of the film.
Terrible.
And then he finally kills him. Takes the knife out, and he lays there, and he just looks at him. And I think it's a powerful scene where then he stands up, and this isn't the Paul Atreides that we've seen the entire film.
Yeah.
This is Paul Atreides, the Kwisatz Haderach now.
Yeah.
And this is where you see it now. He has this, he knows what he has to do. And he looks at his mom, and they were like, "Oh, he's part of us. We're gonna go to the village and everything." And his mom's like, "No," and then he looks at his mom and he's like, "No, we're going."
Yeah.
And then you see where like as he keeps going, and how the Fremen immediately accepted him because he fell into their culture.
yeah.
And then that's where like that even we come full circle when they're on top. He looks, he sees the Fremen riding the sandworm, and he's like, it's all clicking in his head now. What Leto
Time
told
for
him.
some desert power.
Yeah.
It clicks in his head, and he's like, I know exactly what I have
Because
to
we
do.
staying here, we gonna learn the ways.
I know exactly what I have to do. Look, he doesn't say it out loud. He just says desert power, but in his head, it
you know
clicks,
exactly what he's talking about. Yeah.
moves, starts walking. Chani looks at him and he goes, "This is only the beginning."
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, oh shit.
yeah,
like,
they're gonna learn the ways
he's-
of the desert
like
people.
and that's the fear that you're talking about that the mother had, right? And that's another thing too, right? Because
Y'all can enjoy
fear,
that.
fear,
You will enjoy it.
fear is a big thing here because it's the
Fear
it's
is
the same.
fear is the mind killer.
It's the same. It's the same thing with the basis of Star Wars. Star Wars' big thing is like what made Anakin turn. Anakin was the chosen one of prophecy, but what ruined him? Fear. It's the same concept here.
Yeah.
It's the same concept here. Obviously, right? This is the
Fear
foundation.
and sand.
This is the foundation of it, and I think the worst part for me of the movie is how it ends because it's a part one, right, of like a continuing story. So that's the part where I'm just like,
This is probably like not even half of the book. This is maybe like 0.4 of the book. This is
Well, I
why
ain't gonna
I think this
follow
is
the
one of
whole book.
the biggest faults of Dune Part 1. It's as if you end Fellowship of the Ring, the movie.
Yeah.
before like no, it's like
you
they get to Riven
Gandalf falls into it falls
Yeah,
and then
that's
it
it.
ends.
That's it.
You're like,
before they see
Jeez.
Galadriel. Before they see Galadriel, no, it's like they see Galadriel and they're like, all right, we're gonna take off. Dun, credits roll.
yeah. So every story it has its typical 3-act structure.
Yeah.
And if you cut it at 2.8, it's going to feel kind of awkward. But I understand why the director Denis Villeneuve he didn't know he was going to get a part 2.
that was
he
the
didn't
thing.
know.
Because Dune,
But they
I
made
wouldn't either because I didn't like it.
But Dune is one of those movies. I mean, remember, this book has been around since 1965. It's
Yeah.
one of those things that people already know. It's hard to adapt.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean,
that was the biggest thing where it was like no one.
it's just so much information,
no
so
one-
much culture, so much politics, so much philosophy that's thrown out. These new words.
I need your rating, bro. All this back and forth. I need your rating right now
I think
because I know you bias for everything.
solely off part one without
I
including
think
part
he's,
two.
I think he's a little dehydrated, bro. You better drink some of this stuff, bro.
Solely
Because he's
for
about to give it a 20 out of 10.
no,
man.
I'm actually not.
Matt will consistently cope and be like, "You guys are biased," and like, I actually rated this as a film perspective, and then he's over
I
here
got
like, "Well,
the
you know,
bias."
Snyder just didn't like,
I
get
would
the-
actually
BBS all day, man.
I would actually rate this lower than my brother.
Yeah.
I would rate this 8 out of 10. Precisely because of the ending. It
But
ends,
it's a movie.
yeah, but
That's
if
like
I'm-
me saying I'm going to rate Rebel Moon.
But Rebel-
low
That's what
because
you're
of part
asking.
one.
No, but
Unbiased rating the
remember,
single film,
It's different from
not
like
the grand
if I give
picture.
you a
because
job to adapt a book.
Yeah.
The book's been around for 50
So,
years.
hold on.
It has its own structure.
So was it announced that it was going to be like that? Because if it was announced that it's going to be part one, then you need to understand that.
No.
You're told ahead of time.
No. See,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
No, listen to what you're asking us. You ask, what's your rating for this film?
Correct.
You're sitting down, taking the film as a piece of art, not any side story. That's the thing. When I take a rating for a film, I'm sitting down and watching this movie.
Yeah, from start
not,
to end.
Not looking at what's coming next or what's coming before this movie.
Well, I say that because that's what happened across the Spider-Verse. Remember how when it ended, we're like, yo, what the heck?
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I said the same thing when we watched it.
But we didn't know it was going to be like that.
Yeah.
No, we
but
didn't.
Remember,
But that was one of my complaints. Go
I
back
don't
to the
remember-
episode.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the rating I gave it, but that moved me.
We all looked at each other and we're like,
I was like,
what the heck
and-
just happened?
and that,
That's
for me,
literally what
for
happened
me,
in
that
Dune.
decreases at least 1 or 2 points depending on
Okay.
the situation.
Okay. Well, that makes
why
sense then.
Yeah, that's why Dune for me is 8,
Like for
8 out
Rebel
of 10.
Moon, I knew it was going to be part one.
Yeah.
I told
so
you
I
the
already
same
knew
thing.
the way it ends is going to end in a way where we're going to be waiting for another
No.
part.
100%. As if you're consuming the film as a consumer.
Yeah.
Sure. But when you ask the question, what's your rating on the film? That's you taking in the film without any, like, you sit down and watch this movie.
Extra lore.
Yeah.
on,
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like if I ask you, give me a rating for Infinity War. No, don't worry about Endgame. What's Infinity
Yeah,
War?
Infinity
You
War.
know?
Yeah.
So that's the thing where it's like, to be unbiased, that's the way I
Yeah.
approach it.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like I sit down, I'm like, can I watch this movie again? Can
Yeah, I think
you
I think your brother's dehydrated. Yo, you drink some of this shit.
my still suit isn't working.
we've been moving around, but yeah, that's why I give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm looking so I'm really
I think
looking forward.
I think if I find that popcorn container on clearance, I'm getting it for Christmas.
Please,
Yeah,
I want it.
I do
What
want
was
it.
it?
Extra butter.
What's his name? Josh.
Joe,
The actor who plays Gurney, Josh
Brolin? Josh Brolin?
He's I ain't buying it. I ain't sticking my hand in that.
yeah, it is.
It's a little weird, I will
don't know
say.
who designed
because
it.
it's,
I'll
it's
take
so
two.
it's it looks big. It's wide internally,
And it
but,
has. I love how they added
It
the
just-
frill.
But if
they
you have
add-
a big hand and
yeah.
you try to pull out, you're gonna rip the whole container.
I love how they added the frills.
Yes.
Like the frills
Guys.
are there and everything.
Stop beating the bush. That thing looks like a fleshlight.
Yeah,
Like,
it sure
simple
does.
as that.
Like everybody was
that's
like,
the joke.
"Yo, I'm not putting popcorn. I'm putting extra butter."
I wanted just.
You see the memes? The best meme I saw was like, can I get a Dune popcorn bucket? Sure. No popcorn.
No
Extra
popcorn.
butter.
Extra butter.
Oh, okay. Are you gonna watch Dune? No, I'm watching Madam Web.
Yeah, Yoka's the actor. That's
I did
why.
that. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. I thought that was
When
funny.
I find out
That's funny.
clearance, I got you, Giovanni. I got you. I'm gonna hook you up.
I
bro.
actually want it because it just.
Well, you know those popcorn
it's
containers are collectibles.
Yeah,
Because they're only limited made.
I have a friend of mine that collects the popcorn
Those
buckets.
and the drinks, the containers.
Yeah.
They're only limited releases.
I didn't.
So.
Funny enough, I never thought about it
Me either.
until like my friend like. He was like, "Oh, I collect the popcorn buckets from different movie releases," and I was like, "Wait, that's a thing?" And he
Dude,
was like,
and
"Yeah,
they're like
they're pretty cool."
They're built quality. I think
Yeah.
like Wakanda had like a light up one. Thor had a nice
Bro,
one.
no, Doctor Strange.
Doctor
too,
Strange.
That was the coolest
That-
one because it was like
What
an
it-
orange, like the orange cube that Peter puts his
Yeah.
hand in.
Yeah.
It was
Did you
pretty
see
cool.
the Transformers one?
No,
Dude,
no.
it had Optimus. It was like one part what you put your drink and it opened up and you put your.
See, that's pretty
crazy.
Cool. Like,
I want-
honestly, I want the Dune one.
I
'cause
want
think
the
it's
worm.
funny.
I want the
I think
worm.
it's funny, man. Like especially with with all the memes.
If I can find it for a good deal, if it goes on clearance, I got you, bro.
So my official rating of Dune is worm out of 10.
Worm out of 10.
Worm out of 10.
8 worms out of 10.
So 310, 910,
8 out of 10. 8
So
worms. 8 worms.
I think that's enough for Dune Part 1 because I want to leave enough room for Part 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
You know, because we're going to...
Because part 2 will be the closing
and I
chapter.
want to get more into the lore, especially to help Matthew
Something about a sister.
navigate the
sister
Dune
in
universe.
this whole thing.
Funny enough, there's no sister.
Yes.
Yeah. He's getting a little
Lady
sister.
Jessica didn't have a daughter for a sister to be born.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But I think overall, I think it was a nice debate about what our thoughts are about this movie. And then, yes, when Doom Part 2 comes out, when is it coming
March
out, guys?
1st.
March 1st. I'll decide if I'm going to
I'm watching that on IMAX, eating it out of my worm popcorn bucket.
He's going to be the guy coming to wear all extra lubricated and buttered up.
12 worm buckets are on my
I'm going to
waist.
have a worm belt.
Jesus Christ. I don't know if I'm going to watch it in the theaters, but we'll definitely have an episode on that. So I think that's it for the episode, guys.
Absolutely.
So tune in for Dune Part 2, and then we got y'all later.
Excellent.
Later.
Thanks for listening to The Nerd Pod. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're there, help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review. We'll talk to you next time on The Nerd Pod.